Welcome to the house of Jacob.
Yes. Les trois autres sont sortis de l'Afrique.
3 others did leave Africa.
Le quatrième et le cinquième ont disparu.
The 4th and the 5th of these species disappeared.
Il ne reste que le sixième qui est l'homme que nous sommes.
And what remains is man as we know him, that 6th species. And to the left of it, we have the skull of modern African man. It is one of those that is in our collection at the University of Dakar.
L'homme qui est à droite maintenant, on ne le verra que l'homme qui est au milieu est entré en Europe il y a 40 000 ans.
40,000 years ago, the man in the middle left Africa and went to Europe.
Il va vivre en Europe de moins 40 000 ans à moins 20 000 ans, et c'est pendant cette période d'adaptation à un climat extrêmement froid qui est très différent du climat actuel. Parce que c'est pendant la dernière glaciation que la Terre a connu et qui a duré 100 000 ans. Il va donner naissance, donc par mutation et adaptation, au troisième crâne de droite qui est l'homme de Cro-Magnon.
The skull at the extreme right of the screen is that of Cro-Magnon man. It was between 40 and 20 years ago that the man in the middle left Africa to go into Europe at a time during what is called the final or the last glaciation. The climate in Europe was extremely cold. It was much colder than it is now. And during this period of some 20,000 years, he underwent the adaptation to become what we know as white man.
Donc, c'est bel et bien, si on s'en tient sans préjugés, aux données rigoureusement scientifiques, nous sommes bien obligés d'affirmer en toute sérénité que c'est l'adaptation du climat lié à ce climat froid qui a donné naissance finalement au type qu'on appelle conventionnellement maintenant le type leucoderme ou l'homme blanc. Le blanc est sorti du noir à la suite d'un processus d'adaptation à un climat froid. Et cela, tous les spécialistes aujourd'hui le savent dans leur fort intérieur, même s'ils ne le disent pas avec autant d'honnêteté.
It is very clear to all of the scientists involved in this field, even if they are only able to say it within themselves and unable to say it publicly, that the man that we know conventionally to be a white man evolved from a black man over a period of some 20,000 years of adaptation to a different climate. And if we are to say with any serenity, resting totally on scientific data, that is the conclusion that we must come to.
Donc, nous voyons bien que l'humanité, en sortant de l'Afrique et en s'adaptant aux différents climats de la Terre, a donné naissance aux différentes races. Voilà comment les races sont nées. Donc, la race est une notion géographique. Si le premier homme que vous voyez au milieu n'était jamais sorti de l'Afrique, il n'y aurait pas eu de différenciation raciale. L'humanité serait homogène et noire.
If the man that we see in the middle there had never left Africa to people other parts of the world, and if those people in other parts of the world in different climates had not, through the process of adaptation, become what they are in various regions of the world, all man would be homogeneous, and all men would be black.
Le reste de la Terre n'aurait pas été peuplé, serait désert. Et il y aurait eu une seule humanité noire cantonnée en Afrique. Et le reste de la Terre ne serait pas habité.
If that man had not left Africa, the rest of the world would have remained a desert, would never have been people.
Donc, voilà, vous voyez donc que j'ai répondu à la question que vous m'avez posée en demandant où se situe le noir dans l'évolution de l'espèce humaine. Et je vous réponds qu'en toute rigueur scientifique, le premier homme de la Terre était un noir qui va se différencier pour donner naissance aux autres races. Voilà la conclusion à cette première question.
And so to answer precisely your first question, which is or was, to what extent or in what way do blacks figure in the origin of man? The answer is the first man was black, and it was he who gave birth to other races of the world.
You had buffer, the clothing and the housing that were the main thing that allowed them to adapt to very cold climates.
But clothing and housing aside, anthropologist Nina Jablonski believes that Cro-Magnon had adapted in physical ways that suggested a colder, darker life.
One of the greatest challenges in reconstructing the ancestry of humans is actually to put ourselves back in the time before humans started migrating all over the world. Because people living in equatorial Africa are living in a hot environment, the skin must have been able to sweat very efficiently so that people could keep cool. And also because that skin was naked and therefore was prone to damage from ultraviolet radiation. And so the skin of our ancestors was dark, full of the natural sunscreen, melanin.
Sunlight produces vitamin D, vital for healthy bones. At the time my ancestors first ventured into Europe, around 35,000 years ago, their skin was already getting paler in order to absorb more light.
Almost certainly the first people to go into Europe were quite lightly pigmented. This is because Europe, with latitudes in the 40s to low 50s, is a region of fairly low ultraviolet radiation throughout the year. Populations living in Europe who were not coastal populations had to have fairly depigmented skin in order to allow enough ultraviolet B rays into their skin to synthesize the necessary amount of vitamin D that they needed. Coastal populations were very interesting because if they had access to fish, a very vitamin D rich food source, then they could, in a sense, afford to be a bit darker than their hinterland brethren. But one of the things that we have to think about when we talk about the populating of Europe is that the people who went into, especially some of the northern areas, had certainly, well, they were wearing clothes. They weren't naked. They were covered with furs or some kind of simply sewn clothes. And so they had less of their skin actually exposed to the sun. So that's something we have to take into account too. When you wear clothes, you have less skin exposed, and the skin that is exposed has to do more work in synthesizing vitamin D.
The Ice Age was to cut these first Europeans off, eliminating any contact with the rest of the world.